It's not about hardcore, but I'm going to give you an example when we do something, how your muscles are going to be engaged. So I focus on body awareness. And that's like the main thing in yoga, which a lot of people they don't teach. It's not about doing a posture that's going to look like what you see in the magazine or what you see. A lot of these young yoga teachers are like, where they're flexible. I'll talk from experience. When I've taken their classes, they don't know how to speak to my body because they don't know my body, especially because, first of all, I'm a male, so I'm different because I've taught male classes before. And so you have to kind of speak to people's bodies and know what they're going through. And that's all about just the way I'm going to cue you and what to do about your body awareness. And then you're going to learn a lot of different things. So give it some time. If you're looking for, because a lot of guys will come in and they'll say, oh, this is like, actually, a lot of guys come in and say it's difficult. I've taught guys that were like big, huge muscle guys, and they couldn't do this stuff, right? That was when we were doing the more intense class. This class is going to be more gentle, but effective. Okay, so keep that in mind. So those who have never done yoga before, every yoga class starts with an opening meditation. Everybody does it different styles, but it is, a few minutes. We kind of zen into our mind and body and spirit and soul. And then from there, we do our stuff. And then at the very end, we do something called Shavasana. You guys are going to learn some Sanskrit language too. That's another thing. Not everybody teaches that. Some of the culture of it, right? And it's just basically Shavasana. One way to remember this, go like this. Shavasana. It's like it's called corpse pose. So Shavasana is corpse pose, and basically you're playing dead for 5, sometimes 10 minutes at the end of the class. And that's when you integrate. That's when your mind starts to integrate everything you did. Even if you're not even aware of it, your body is gone through something and it's got to integrate what you did. So it builds up. It's like it's growth for the next class, right? As you go, right? So the yogis call Shavasana one of the most important poses. So hopefully you don't miss it. And then if you want to stay in Shavasana and I close the meeting, you can stay as long as you want. Because sometimes, especially at the end of the night, you might fall asleep. Especially if it's an intense class. So that's Shavasana. And then after Shavasana, I like to bow. I make it very traditional where I just bow you out with an Om. We might not have to do that today. We'll just end in Shavasana, or it's just a courtesy bow when I bow you out, and then class is over. So that's kind of the structure. So asana, it means posture. So you're going to see Shavasana, Uttanasana. So all these asana means this pose, and then all the different terms are just the name that's in front of it. So let's begin without further ado. And we're going to start seated. Now, if you don't have a mat, anything that you can find to cushion you. And if you don't have blocks, by the way, so if I refer to a block, yoga blocks, you can use a book. If you have a book like this, all you have to do is get some Saran wrap and wrap it up. Or if you have some, these are cork. They come in foam blocks, which are cheap. You can probably get them at the Walmart or what's it called? The Winners, places like that. But you wrap them in Saran wrap so they don't slip and you don't ruin your book. If it's a Bible, like this thing. Okay, so those are blocks. And then sometimes we're going to use a strap. Okay, so this is a karate strap. It's one of my old brown belts. But you can use scarves, something maybe from an old robe. When you come out of the shower, you got the robe. Anything you can find. You can purchase them too. They're not too bad. It depends where you go. But all you need is something to wrap around, to grab. you know, we put around their feet and stuff like that. It's just something to assist you. I won't use it today, so don't worry about it. But just for reference, you like to sit on a pillow. I have tight hips, and if you guys are soccer players, you're gonna have tight hips too. Anybody that runs, all these guys that runs, tennis, like all these other sports, they create resistance in your joints. And we're going to loosen your joints up. So that's part of the practice, right? So because I do a lot of running, my hips are really tight. And all the work I did in my life prior to this point, up and down ladders and stuff like that. So my hips are really tight. So they need help. So sitting on something, especially if you're like this, if you're saying, it's hard for me to sit down. This is called easy pose, okay? This sitting like on the floor with your legs crossed, it's called easy pose. But for some people, it's not so easy because you have to externally rotate your hips. If your body has a problem externally rotating, right, it's going to be hard for you, and you won't be able to sit for a long time, right? So don't kill yourself to do this. You can straighten your legs. Or sit on a pillow, or sit on blocks. That's what we use block. One of the things we use a block for. So whatever you can sit on, or blankets are another great tool that I use, especially as you get older. I use it for the knees. I spent a lot of my years beating up my knees without knee pads. But when I do yoga, I make sure I have a blanket because we're going to go on our knees. And you don't want to, if you start feeling pain from hard surfaces because you don't have padding, you're not going to focus on your body. You're going to have a hard time. And your mind's going to be like, oh, this is painful. It's going to deter you from the practice. So blankets you use for lots of different things. Blankets you can use for padding. You can use for the back of your head, like you can make them small, and you can sit on the blanket too, instead of if you don't have a block. So blankets are very versatile. So if you have all different kinds of blankets, and even at the end, Shavasana, sometimes people like to put the blanket on top of them because they're cold, because now they're not moving, and their circulation is slowed down. So you might want a blanket at the very end. So there's also bolsters. We can get away with them, but instead of a bolster, like this is a round bolster. But the other bolsters are long. They're long and round, right? You might even have some on your couch, like pillows that you put in the back of your head, right? That's not really a bolster because it's soft, but you can use it as a bolster. But again, blankets, if I roll up a blanket or two blankets together, I can make myself a bolster, maybe for under the legs, but blankets are probably one of the best things you can have on the side. So, enough chit chat. So, in our meditation pose, either your legs are crossed, you can even be on a chair. I teach chair yoga too sometimes to older people. And you can do yoga on the chair, no problem. So as you get older, don't worry. This is like golf. You know, golf you can play for, actually yoga you can do even past the age of golf, right? You can do yoga on a chair. And even then, you can even do it on a bed. So you can take this with you wherever you go. So I'm sitting cross-legged. I'm going to take my hands and I'm going to put them on my knees or my inner thighs. And I really want to weigh my hands down. So I really want to relax my hands. Really what I'm doing, I'm relaxing my shoulders. And I'm gonna walk you into this with this meditation. This is like a little guided meditation. If you're not sitting on something, when your knees come up like this, it means your hips are really tight. So when you sit on something, it'll allow your knees to come down. Because if you're like this and you're not, and your sit bones go back, you're actually fighting. You're fighting to stay up, and it's not comfortable. When you're meditating, if you're not comfortable, you're not going to meditate. All you're going to worry about is how much pain is going through your body. Sit on something. What you want to do is sit on the edge of your pillow or your block. Okay. Why on the edge? Because if you sit past the edge, you're just going to sink and roll back. Our back. We're trying to get away from the rounding of the back, right? Especially if you have the pelvic that tilts backwards, because everybody's different. Okay, so you're not going to do a pose like your neighbor or the other person beside you, or and this is another thing a lot of these younger yoga teachers don't understand. They say, oh, do it like this, and they say, oh, you have to do this like more this angle, that angle. I go, wait a minute, you don't know what the person's body is. You don't know what their muscular, their joints are shaped differently. Everybody's shaped differently. You can practice yoga for another 100 years if your body, if you live that long, if your body does not have the physique for the joints to bend that certain way, you're never going to do that posture like that other person, because that other person, it has a different structure of the bone. Okay, so that's very important. That's something a lot of instructors miss. They think, okay, they need to practice more, they need to work harder, they need to do more yoga, and then they'll do it just like me. Well, if you were born flexible and your body, like, for example, I'm going to give you an example because this is an important point, because a lot of people don't get it, right? So if I'm lifting up, so my joint, if it's touching, my shoulder joint is touching like in my collarbone, okay? And it stopped. But I can't go up anymore, right? And somebody else who doesn't have that little piece of bone goes, well, I can do it. I'm more flexible. No, you don't have anything that's in your way. So if I say, walk over there 5 feet, and 3 feet away, I have a wall here, I can't go 5 feet because I'm stuck. There's a blockage. There's a resistance. So if you're going bone on bone, you can't go anymore. You're not going to do that posture. And so some people will go like this, and to get past that point, they might go around and do something different, right? So they get there in a different way. So the point here is everybody's different. Your body's going to be different. You're going to feel where you're going to need work, and that's what I'm going to cue you to work on, right? So, but you're all going to go from A to B. That's my goal. If all I can do is this, that's my A. I want you to be able to do this, go to B. If you're already doing this, that's your A. I want you to go to B. Because another important thing is that as you get older, you lose 30% of your flexibility. So let's say you're doing a stretch. That's all I can do, right? And then as you get older, you lose that. All you can do is this. But if you stay flexible when you're younger, when you can move, you have the mobility, and you stretch and you work your body to do this, and then you lose 30%. This is just a general number. Then you're going to do this. You're going to be always ahead, right? Because you're always keeping the body open. Because the body gets stiff with age, and it gets stiff with movements. So these athletes that are high performers, they have a hard time, unless they're doing stretches, they have a hard time with their physical movement. They can do that. If I'm a tennis player, I can do this, and certain movements, but that doesn't mean I'm flexible. And in fact, when your joints are going all over the place, your body naturally wants to say, hold on here, there's too much movement, that's dangerous, I'm gonna tighten up. Your body's gonna tighten up. That's why it's important, and I've said this before, is to stretch after the game, because your muscles have been tightening up because your body's saying, what's all this movement? This is dangerous. I can get hurt like this. Let me pull things in. So if you stretch after the game, which I know everybody's tired, and even me, like you got to go home or whatever, but it's really important if you can stretch a little bit to keep it open. So, and do it in a way where you're breathing. We'll practice that too. You do it in a way when you're breathing So you teach the body that, hey, everything's okay, relax, don't panic, right? So you got to talk to your body like you're talking to a person that you're caring for, right? And we don't do that. We don't do that. We actually talk to our body negatively. We have like 80,000 negative self-talks a day, and they're like, and most of them are the same every day, right? That's the philosophy part of it. So we'll get a little bit into that, but so let's start seated. Again, make sure you're comfortable. And closing the eyes. And just focus on your breath. And just notice where your hands are. If they're on your knees, maybe they're resting on your thighs, or somewhere between your legs. But you want to make sure that your arms are heavy so your shoulders can relax. And you're going to sit here, and this is a very brief technique. You're just going to sit here. I'm going to give you a minute or so to sit and scan your body. Imagine I've given you a piece of paper and a pen, and I said, okay, write down what's going on in your body, where you're feeling it. And then notice if you're feeling any pain and your knees are pain, maybe you want to put something under the knees. If you have the blocks, you can put blocks under the knees, or you can put rolled up blankets, or you can put pillows. And then a little technique that you want to notice, because we're going to refer to this as time goes by. When you inhale, notice what happens to the back. As you scan the body, notice if your shoulders or your neck is holding any tension, and see if you can allow your shoulders to droop down away from the ears. And at the same time, see if you can lift through the crown of the head. And you might notice that might take a little bit of core engagement. You might feel like something's happening in the core that's requiring you to make this movement. And if you ever want to plan to sit a little longer in meditation, don't be afraid to sit against a wall. Or again, you can sit on a chair. It doesn't matter. There's different approaches to meditation. That's a whole new topic. It's a whole new class. But just know it's important to make yourself comfortable. And then try to deepen your breath a little bit deeper as we warm up the body with the breath. And then let's see if we can all take an inhale all the way to the top of the crown of the head and hold it there for a second. And then let go with an exhale, a sigh of relief. Let it go. And then gently opening the eyes. We're going to start on our backs. We're going to start on our backs. And we can lengthen our legs. So again, this is where you may want to have that blanket underneath you. So lengthening the body, especially if your legs have been crossed for a little bit. And you want to curl the toes towards your head. And as you curl your toes towards your head, press your heels away from your body. Okay, and then bend your legs. make sure your feet are flat on the floor. This is where we're really going to tune in to the pelvis. So you don't want to be on anything rolling. I just removed my blanket because it was too bunched up. So you want to make sure you're on a flat surface here. And you can put your hands on your belly. It doesn't matter where your hands go here. So what I'm going to focus on here, I'm going to lengthen my tailbone. This is an area of the body. Our sacrum, it gets very stiff, and that's where a lot of the problems come from, including your back, problems in your back. So what I want to do, a tailbone is at the end of your spine. So if you imagine your tailbone, I don't know if you can see the camera, but I have my palm facing up and my fingers curled forward. So that would be like my tailbone curling upwards. So what you want to do is press your tailbone down. And to know that you're doing this right, you're going to create an arch under your back. So then let it go. Press the belly button down towards the mat and make your lower back be flat on the mat. So notice that movement. So I'm going to press my tailbone flat. It's like I'm uncurling that little tailbone, pressing it flat, holding it there. And then I'm going to reverse that. Now I'm going to press the belly button down to straight back to the bottom of the mat. So do that a few times. So I like to do this with the count. I like to count for 5, and I like to inhale. And I'm pressing my tailbone. I like to inhale, and then exhale. I'm going to press my belly button down and relax my back. Now this should feel really good on the back, even though you're doing some movement, but the back should feel really supported here. So do that back and forth. You're inhaling, lengthen the tailbone. And then when you reverse, you're curling the tailbone, pressing your lower back flat on the mat. And I would do that, do it back and forth. But if I was to do this on my own, I would do it for 10 repetitions. So back and forth would be 1. And each one I would be counting for 5, pressing the tailbone forward, flattening the tailbone basically, and then pressing the lower back, flattening the lower back for 5. Now, if you can't breathe for 5, you can go for 4, 3, whatever your breath is, whatever your breath capacity is. And there's ways that I guarantee you can lengthen your breath capacity. So keep doing this. If anybody doesn't feel this movement, just raise your hand so I can address it. If not, keep doing this. Now, if you're finding this no problem, easy, bring more body awareness. So as you lengthen your tailbone, maybe pressing your feet flat on the floor too. You're engaging your legs. Usually we like to do a bridge pose at the end of the class. But we're going to do a subtle bridge pose where we're going to inhale. We're going to press into our feet. Okay. Make sure your knees don't flare out. So you want to have your knees in line with your hips. You're going to press into your feet and lift up your hips. Just lift them up as much as you can. And then bring them back down. And then you inhale, lift the hips up. And then bring them back down. Now your neck should be straight as you're doing this. Again, I like to do this. I'm not going to count, but I like to do this when I'm doing that on my own. I like to do it for 5 counts, inhaling all the way up and then exhaling all the way down. And to make it even more of a movement, I would press down like you did before. Press your lower back like you did before. So you really have to engage a little more muscle to do that. But if you're already feeling it, and this is okay, you're working your legs here and your back. You're working some muscles that we don't normally work. And then we get injuries because when we're on the soccer field, we do movements that they're sporadic and your body's not conditioned to do it. And then you get hurt. Then you can't play for a week or 2 or a month. So we're trying to avoid that. So my hands are also, palms are facing down here. So when I lift up, if you want to use the floor to push, now, if you want to challenge yourself, you can stay in bridge pose. And a full bridge pose would be clasping your hands behind you, pulling your shoulder blades together, and maybe lifting a little higher. Okay? If you can't do that, don't worry about it because you're just starting out. This is just for people who have done this before. I think, Oriana, you're the only one that maybe have done this before, to hold this full bridge pose. And just holding that bridge pose, it takes work. You're stretching the front of your body, and that's a place that you don't normally stretch when you're doing everything else in your daily activities. And then just relax. And from here, we're going to give our body a break. We're going to do what's called windshield wipers. So you're going to take your feet wider than your hips. If you have a mat, it's going to be at the edge of your mat, and you're just going to sway them back and forth. So we're getting movement after creating some stiffness, like positioning. We're just offering our body some movements. And then I'm going to roll to one side. And I'm going to stay totally on one side. So I'm not leaning back. I'm not leaning forward. And I want to bend my knees a little bit. Bending your knees, your heel should be in line with your hips and the outside of your ribs and all the way up to the crown of your head. So that's the positioning you want to get. And then what you're going to do now, if you have a block or a book, if not, don't worry about it. You can put that between your legs when we press together. But what we're going to do, we're going to open the door. So I'm going to bring the knee up without rocking. This is the hard part, okay? So a lot of people will like lift the leg up and they'll rock backwards. So pretend that you have a wall behind you and the bottom of your feet are touching the wall and your back is touching the wall. And you're lifting your knee up. And if you can, as high as the wall goes. If there's no wall there, you can even go further if you like. But right now, my feet are together here, and they're just opening like a book. Opening. And this is where I would get my weight if you want to feel it. If not, you're just opening, closing, opening, closing, right? The opening part is hard to do. So I would get my weight. So I'd get my Epsom salt here, and I'd put it on my knee, and I just kind of balance it there. So it's kind of shifting. So I'm lifting weight. I'm lifting with the weight. And again, if you need that extra resistance, you can also do this with resistance bands, but it takes a little more, maneuvering, and sometimes the bands pull you in the wrong directions, right? So you do that. I open very slowly with the weight. With the weight, it's going to be slow. And then when I close, I would put a block or whatever you have, a book, and squeeze. Squeeze. And we're working different muscles here. And we always want to have that counter movement. So I would open, close, and squeeze. Open, close, and squeeze. Okay, so notice if you're rocking, and it's okay. You're noticing, when you're noticing things that you're trying to avoid, that's step one. It doesn't mean you're doing anything bad. Whatever you're doing and you're aware of it, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. Okay, so it's part of the practice, right? That's why they call it a practice. So you're opening and closing without shifting. So you're trying to keep that body still. And you squeeze, open. Now you can also like do a count. Like you can count. So we'll be more in sync as we get used to these postures together, and maybe we can the counts. But for now, I want you to get the idea. Okay. So I would do like 20 of these things, right? Not so much as a yoga posture, but more for a soccer conditioning approach. All right, and then we're going to switch and do the other side. Now, you can turn around. I'm just switching, so I'm facing the camera, but all you need to do is just simply roll over to the other side. Totally sideways. Our whole side body is touching the mat. I mean, you can have your hand, use your arm for a pillow, or you can even use a pillow. And then again, your knees are bent and your heels are aligned with your hips and, straight up. So as I repeat, if I was doing this against the wall, my feet would be flat on the wall. My back would be flat on the wall. And then I go open the door and open it as far as you can. And over time, you'll get a little bit further. So just go as much as your body says stop. So this is where it's good. The yoga attire, it's basically any loose clothing. The same stuff you would wear, if you're going to track, running, or whatever. So you have flexibility. Your clothes are allowing you to be more flexible. So just something to keep in mind. And then again, if you have that block or book or something, anything you can put in between, press the knees together. Press, press, press. Open, and then press as you go down. Quicker is not always better. It's getting the full range of movements. That's what's important. And see how much you can open that door. Or maybe there's some rust and you need some WD-40. We call that your body's fluid, your electrolytes, your lymphatic fluids. This is what we're moving right now. We're moving the lymph fluid, which is your garbage disposal. This is how you detox. That's why it's important to keep the body moving, because that's when you detox. The lymphatic system doesn't have a pump like the heart. The heart that pumps the blood and the blood cleans and goes around. But the lymphatic system is dependent on you moving. Imagine water in a bag and you're like squishing it back and forth. Then maybe the inside of the bag is dirty, you're squishing it back and forth. Obviously, our body is more advanced in a bag and it has ways of getting it out. All the deposits out to excretion. All right, and then don't forget to squeeze your knees together. See what that feels like. You're going to have your knees nicely bent here. You could use a strap here, but if not, all you're going to do, you're going to grab your toes. Now, if your legs are straight and say, I can't reach, just push your toes and then you grab your toes, right? Hold on to your toes, have your knees bent as much as you need to. And you're going to hold on to your legs and you're going to straighten them. Another thing you can do for those that are really stiff, bend one leg and do one at a time. Okay, so you bend one leg. So my heel goes to the center. So one leg is bent, and then the other leg's bent too, but just different position, right? So my knee is facing to my left. My other leg is bent, and I'm holding on to my toes. If you want a little more challenge, hold on to the outside of your foot. And then what you're going to do, you're going to, again, lean your chest forward and slowly lengthen your leg until your body says, that's enough. No more rubber band left in there. So you have to stop, right? And then you're going to hold it there. That makes it much easier. So we're doing one leg at a time until you're able to do two. So notice where you stopped. And then I'm going to show you how you can go further. So what you're going to do is, instead of saying, I can't go any further, just tell yourself, I can't go any further for now, because that's where my body's stopping. So what you want to do is inhale and press it out. When you relaxing, make sure your leg is relaxed. You don't want to tighten it. You want to inhale and breathe deeply and say, when I exhale, it's going to go a little bit further, even if it's a millimeter. So if I was doing two legs, so you have to switch and do the other one, but if you're doing both legs, a little more difficult. And I'm still going to breathe. And then I'm going to press out a millimeter. This is a stretch you're able to hold on and slowly stretch. But you have to breathe into it. Because what happens is your body is going to be like before, you know, where I was telling you that your bones, when your joints are all over the place, and your body's trying to protect you, it's going to tighten. And so if you're holding your breath, you go, like, and you're struggling, that's panic mode. Your nervous system is called the sympathetic nervous system is kicked in. You're in the fight or flight. That's panic. And your body's not going to want to get loose. It's not going to say relax. So what you want to do, parasympathetic is relax in your body. So the body says, oh, it's okay. There's no danger here. I'm not going to pull anything. If your knees are bent, you can stretch because you're not going to pull anything. It's when people hyperextend their leg and then they want to go further is when they start to pull things. But if your knees are bent, you're safe. So if you're struggling, you're in your sympathetic nervous system. So you don't want to struggle. So next time, have a strap and hold on to your strap and lift your chest. To be honest with you, when I get up in the morning, I'm probably a foot, maybe a foot and a half away from my feet. So I have to, so it takes me time so I can grab the bottom of my feet. I can grab the outside of my feet and I can keep my legs straight. But that's not right away. Your body needs, you got to start to teach your body, and your body has to trust you. Let's go into what's called cat-cow. Who doesn't know what cat-cow is? Who knows what cat-cow is?
Meow.
This is called tabletop. So in yoga, we call this tabletop. So proper position. Your wrists are below your shoulders, right? And your hands are shoulder width apart. Your knees are directly below your hips.
All right.
Now, cat pose. It's called cat pose because we say scaredy cat. So Halloween, what does a cat do? You see the picture of the Halloween? Around your back. So make your back really round and you can drop your head. Now, if you were to see my tailbone, remember I was telling you before, my tailbone, which is like my hand, I'm going to use my hand for my tailbone. I'm going to curl my tailbone under. So I'm going to curl it under when I'm rounding my back. That's what I'm trying to position. That's what I'm trying to feel so I can actually get my body position. But the way I teach it, the easiest way to do this is to imagine your belly button going up and down like a yo-yo in one straight line. If you do that, your body will do the position by itself. Okay, so think about this. So scaredy cat pose, belly button pushes straight up. Okay, remember, like a yo-yo, not back, not forward, straight up, as much as you can for now. Right? So you're rounding your back. At the same time, I'm pushing into the mat and making my arms long. Making them as long as I can go, because I'm pushing and I'm lengthening my arms, right? Cow pose, and you know how a cow has the sunken belly and the back is arched. It's not rounded, it's arched. Cat, we round our back, and in cow, we arch our back. And as we arch your back, you look up. And then again, as you're looking up, press into your hands. You're gonna lengthen your arms again. And that's where you inhale. And then you exhale, round the back, push down, the head bows. Inhale, arch the back. This is a pose you could and should do every morning when you get up. Even if you do like for 1 minute. Even 30 seconds if you don't have 1 minute time. But it is so important for your back. So you're moving your pelvis, you're moving your spine, you're moving the joints in your neck, you're moving the whole spinal system, really. You're also engaging the arms, and you're expanding your lungs. You're getting your lungs in shape for the day. Inhale up, exhale down. And if your arms are tired, your wrists are tired, we're going to do what's called a child's pose. And this is a pose that they say if you're ever in trouble, your body needs to rest or whatever, you go into child's pose. Now, a child's pose could be hard too, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But let's first do it. So child's pose, we basically push our sit bones back to our heels. So child's pose, you're relaxing. Now, for some of you who have the tight hips, you can't go down. So I highly recommend you get a blanket. I don't have a blanket, but I'm going to use a pillow. You get a blanket and you put it behind you, so you sit back and take away the space between your heels and your butt. So you want to take away that space. If you're feeling pain, if you're not feeling pain, it's okay. Just keep working towards going down. Because child's pose is supposed to be a surrendering pose where if you don't feel good, you know, or you're hurting or something, you're upset, right? They say you go into this pose, child pose. You're surrendering. So it's supposed to be a very relaxing, very therapeutic pose. But for some people, if the hips are tight, it can be painful. And is anybody you feeling it on your ankles and saying, oh, I got a lot of pain in my ankles? So that's where you get a blanket and you roll it up and you make cannoli. You roll up the blanket and you put it down on the mat and you place your top of your where your shins are, where they bend. You put it on top, and now you can press back without the pain in your heel, in your ankles. Because sometimes you say, oh, I can't do it anymore, it hurts. Sometimes it's just your ankle. Your ankles are stiff, especially if you run a lot or walk a lot. Your ankles are going to be stiff. And if you're playing soccer, you're running for sure. Or if not, you probably do a lot of walking. So what you want to do is take away the space between the mat and your ankles. Put whatever you need to put, 1 blanket, 2 blankets, and then you're able to sit back. Okay, so usually we don't stay too long in the child's pose unless we're doing yin yoga, which is another magic style of yoga. But I just wanted to explain what we're doing here. And then we're going to go up again. Standing position, we're going to curl the toes under. As we push back, like we're going to go back into child's pose, we're going to lift up the hips and press back. We're going to make an upside down letter V. Okay, we won't stay long because it's going to be very difficult. Oriana, I'm sure you can stay more because you've done this before, but this is especially hard for men because we're top heavy and there's a lot of pressure on the ankle. But what you want to do is make an inverted V shape. A lot of technique here. We won't focus on this today, but after you're in your downward dog, it's called, you're going to walk your hands towards your feet and bend your knees. Bend your knees. And like before, you're going to rest your chest. Like we rest our chest before when we were doing the forward fold. Then we're going to sit back into a chair pose. Am I on the camera? Let's move this. I'm going to sit back into a chair pose. Now it's going to be a little challenging, so be prepared. So how do I sit? So this is the Utkatasana pose, the chair pose. So what you want to do is imagine you're sitting on the edge of a park bench. Okay, so you don't want to have your knees over your toes. So you try to press back. So technically, you're supposed to be able to see your toes, but so that's chair pose, and then you want to lift up out of it. What I like to do is use a block that helps you to focus. If you have the block, you lift the block up like this, and then I go all the way up, right? And then I press down, and I do a count. I go one. Let me go backwards. You can see me. So I got my block, or if you don't have your block, you can just use your hands up and down, or you can clasp your fingers together if that helps you. And if you want to do, you guys remember the Charlie's Angels, like you sit back with the gun pointing? Yeah. So you lift up, hands over the head, and then straight up like a rocket. And you inhale, sit back. Or maybe two. Sit back, lift the hands up. I'm not going to cue you the details. Well, I can, but don't worry about them. I'll cue you some details, especially if you've done this before. But for now, we're just looking for the movement. Sitting back, straight back, with your back is straight. Making sure your knees don't go too much over your toes. Pressing into your heels. And then making sure your knees don't go outwards. So imagine you're in a hallway that's big enough, as wide as your hips, and you're just sliding your knees on both walls on either side of you. If that makes sense, if you can envision that. Right, so I'd like to do 10 of those. And at one point, I stop and hold the chair pose. Now, if you can do that, it's going to be hard. I'll tell you right now. It takes a lot of quad strength. Your back has to engage. So we won't stay on here, and then lift right up, and we're going to come into Tadasana. It's mountain pose. So mountain pose. Here's going to be a surprise one for you. So it's going to be very, now if I have socks on, it's easier to do yoga with bare feet. Okay, because you can feel the earth. It's good for let me take them off. It's good for this pose too, especially because you can really ground yourself and feel the pressure. You really engage the muscle. So in Tadasana, basically, I'm standing up straight. If you go to the doctor's office, you see the correct anatomical position where the person's hands the hands are opened up a little bit. So that's what Tadasana should be. So listen to everything I say here on what the pose is supposed to look like, but don't worry about it. It's just we're going to get used to it. But for now, what I'm trying to do, I'm going to focus first on my feet. I'm pushing into the earth. Notice what it feels like. I'm pushing into the earth. When you do that, you're probably going to notice if you say, like, I want to push weight into the earth, right? Without folding forward. You're staying straight. How do you do that? it's almost, you're going to feel as if you're on rice paper or on a piece of paper, and you want to rip that paper apart. So my feet are going outward, but they're not going to go because they're stuck. That's why it's good to have bare feet. They're stuck in the ground. So can you feel the energy of your muscles and your legs awakening? You're going to feel the difference. You're going to feel when your thighs lift. So if I push them to the earth, my thighs are lifting, my knees are going outward. All right. So your whole leg should be engaging right now. If you're ripping that rice paper apart, your legs should be really stiff because your muscles are working, and you should really feel like nobody can push you because you're holding on to the earth, right? Just think of that. Think of it that way. Think of it. I don't want anybody to push me. The wind's not going to knock me over. Here I am. I got my base. Okay. So that's, you're grounding yourself from the hips down. Now, at the same time, you're going to pull from the hips up. And imagine, I'm going to just bend down to show you. So imagine somebody's pulling you from a string from the crown of your head. So you're gonna go from the waist up, and you're going to be lifting from the crown of the head. Now, when you do that, your lower back is going to arch a little bit, and your chest might tend to want to puff out like a pigeon. You don't want to puff it out. You want to lift the chest more upward than outward. So you want to lift up, right? So the energy is really pulling, as if somebody's pulling me. If I have a string tied to the center of my head, somebody's pulling me straight up. Now, when we're focused on being pulled, feel that energy pulling up. When we're focusing on that, we forget about our feet. So see if you can do that. See if you can press down into your feet and lift through the crown of your head. Okay, so those two things I've asked you to do now. Number 3, press your fingertips towards the earth. So now you're pressing the shoulders down away from your ears. So you're lifting through the chest. You are pushing down through your feet. You're lifting through the crown of the head, and you're reaching evenly with the fingertips. So you're not pushing, so you're like, you're fighting with your balance back and forth. You want to press down evenly with your fingertips. So it's a gentle pulling or pressing, as if somebody's pulling your fingers, right? So your feet are going towards the earth. Your fingertips are going towards the earth. The crown of the head is going upwards. Your upper body, your whole upper body from your waist up is going upwards. Okay. And then there's another little point here. See if you can, without moving the hands, see if you can pull the shoulder blades together. And see if you can take the front of your throat and press it towards the back, so your neck stays a little bit straighter. Now, when you're focusing on all that stuff, you're probably lost the base of your feet. So see if you can start from the base of your feet and go through all that stuff. Now hold that posture. And I'm telling you, if you're holding this posture for a minute, if your legs aren't like burning, you're not doing it right. This is, and somebody says, what are you, he's not doing anything. He's just standing there. Why is he sweating? Because your whole body is working in this pose. Okay. But like I said, don't worry about all the cues. We're going to go over that a few times, but that's your mountain pose. And then we're just going to probably end it there. So I would like to do a balancing pose. We can do a quick one. Okay. It's called a tree pose. So basically I'm standing, I have my mountain pose base. So I have my feet nicely firm and now they've awakened. I'm going to take let's start with my right knee out. I'm going to open it like we did on the mat. So we open it like the door, and then we can have our hands out. We can have our hands on our hips if you want. And that can be balanced for you just like that. If you don't feel the balance, make sure your knee comes out. So you're challenging yourself for balance. If you can't feel it, then you start to lift the heel up your leg. and try to go like you below the knee or above the knee, and now you're pressing into your, oops, and don't be afraid to use the wall or something. I'll tell you later some other techniques you can do to work this pose. So that's your tree pose. And then if you want to grow your branches, bring your hands up. That's what it looks like in the yoga pictures. Some people like to put their hands in prayer position. Or you can just have your hands out, holding your knee outward. And then let's do the other side for the sake of time. Imbalance. So we're going to open up. Now notice that this side might be easier or it might be harder, depending what's going on in the balance of your body. That's what this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to balance our body, and we won't even know our body's out of balance until we get to know ourselves. So again, door opens, and then the knee can stay there and just hold that posture here and focus on opening up the knee, or you can start to work the heel up below the knee or above. And then you take your hands in any position you want. If you're struggling with this, do not be afraid to go to a wall. Get support, because you'll be working your legs, be working your balance. When you work that, then you can slowly move away from the wall. Okay, so let's do our last posture. It's called Shavasana. You guys know what it's called now? And you know what it is. So basically it's Shavasana. From standing, I like to just mount down slowly. There's other ways you can come down. You can go into a boat pose and slowly go down. And so in Shavasana, my feet are at least the width of the mat or wider than your hips, right? And you want to let your legs relax. Then you want to take your hands facing palms up, so your shoulders open. That's the reason why we face them up. And we want them alongside our body. Some people like to bring them up, but that lifts your shoulders. You want to kind of relax your shoulders downward. Relax your head. And the way I like to get into it, I like to take a deep inhale. And then with a sigh of relief, and as you exhale, your eyes are closed. Your body starts to sink into the mat with the exhale.